guys need to work on or learned you need to work on?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot we were really proud of, and there's so much that we need to work on. We're excited to kind of continue to work on our defensive punches, which is all the different ways that we can kind of change up the texture of the game, just schematically at a moment's notice. We'd like to make some progress there. We could like to continue growing on the glass on both sides. That's a real big deal for us. Offensively, we'd like to continue to get into a space where our guys are able to pay attention. It becomes part of their DNA, where they're paying attention to how they're being guarded and responding accordingly, where it becomes second nature. And that's going to be an all season long pursuit. The more we do that, the more aesthetically pleasing we are offensively, and the more effective we are offensively. So we got a whole laundry list of things that we'd like to get better at. It's why these games are so great, is because they expose you and teach you where you can be better, and also give you insight into what you're doing well.
In the first half, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure that first half interior defense was not as good as what you needed to be. I mean, the points of the paint, I think Shire was even, just pushing it there as the first half went on. He knew that he had that advantage there. You guys bowed up in the second half, but how much is interior defense, rim protection, also an emphasis?
Yeah, it's really important. It was different. It was actually different. It was different ways. They only had really one roll basket. They had really one Barkley attempt that was successful. It was a lot of ball handler downhill at the rim, and it was a lot of ball handler off 2 feet, and so that was. They're a challenging team that way. They're actually, what's interesting is they're so good. They were shooting the ball so well, and they move the ball so quickly. They're different than us, but the feel of their cadence of their game is that when they earn a power play, sometimes they get to earning a power play way more. In a generic way, but once they get there, their ability to pop rule the ball around until they get an open shot is really elite. It's one of the things that makes them special. And so it's kind of like pick your poison a little bit. We weren't as concerned about the number of 2-point attempts. We liked that. I think we were just concerned about the distance. It was like 4, 5, 6 feet instead of 9, 10, 11, 12 feet. And so that had a lot to do with us being probably overly conscious about the roll, about our C3 defense on the roll. We probably needed to be, and a kind of a cop-out in terms of we're so dependent on C3 that we're not going to get to the point of the screen, so our guys did a decent job adjusting that, and then our sprint to recover and kind of challenge passes and our championship chest late, all that stuff really, really matters in that situation. So it was two things. One, it was shoring up our ball screen coverage. That was really, really important, and doing what we do better, and two, changing it up a little bit.
What did you talk to Jackson about? Say, hey, look, those things happen. What did you say to him?
You mean just post game?
Yes, just they didn't score but one.
Yeah, what's interesting about Jax is he played great. He made huge defensive plays down the stretch. We kind of just it's a pretty raw reporting deal, but we do points given up. And Jax was responsible for giving up 2 points in the entire game. And you think about the matchups that he had. He was actually elite. He had some massive toughness plays down the stretch. I was incredibly proud of him. He was really important to him. So I haven't really talked to him a lot after the game. He was, like I said, he carried a lot of water in this game. On the offensive side, there's more ways he can grow for sure. And he's really hungry to do that. He's an extraordinary offensive player, and when you are, you garner a lot of attention. And he certainly is the headliner on every single scout, and sometimes just the sheer gravity that you afford your teammates on the floor actually is the biggest contribution, and it certainly was in the game. I don't get what net was it, guys? I have no idea what day today is. Whenever that game was, the last one we played.
Hey, Mark, when do you, are there times you go with instinct over data, or do you always just where the data tells you, you just do?
Well, so it's one of the fun things about kind of just digging into the numbers is that the numbers can tell you whatever you want them to tell you. right? And so it's not really about, it's not like you can jump into the numbers and the numbers tell you exactly what to do. You have to interpret the numbers. Like, that's almost more artistic than just going with your gut, or maybe it's exactly the same thing. And so there's always a balance between instinct and gut and experience and what you're seeing with your eyes and what you're feeling in your players, which it's hard for data to account for that because people are really dynamic and incorporating the data. And so when you do all that, probably at the end of the day, you just end up going with your gut too, right? But your gut is helping you interpret the data a little bit. So it would be, you know, I don't know if this game is ever going to get just down to straight science, because, you know, science would be great if you're working with, you know, robotic figures out there, but you're not. You're dealing with emotional, dynamic, changing circumstances all the time, and limited data sets all the time. And there's dynamic, you know, personalities on the other side too that are changing moment to moment. And so it's all of that put together.
What came out of the game, Kobe, it seemed like, drew the main assignment on Continental. Just how impactful was his on-ball defense against him, and does he still kind of need to improve in that area?
Yeah, I thought Kobe made some big-time defensive plays. Actually, I thought he had some terrific defensive efforts, and there's space for him to grow. It's both, right? From him, we got a bunch of film and a bunch of data about where he was really terrific, and some space where he needs to grow. I still think that he has more defensive game in the tank that where he can continue to grow into an elite defender. But he had some moments where he's really effective.
Mark Brandon scored 6 straight points for you guys while you guys were coming back, but almost 3. Obviously, where have you seen his growth, just game to game, and then what you saw from him against Duke?
I was really proud with his, just in general, his energy on the floor. Partly that is due to us learning him a little bit and learning about him in this pace. And trying to manage his early minutes versus his late minutes. You know, we did a big study on guys and how they perform if they have a 1-minute run, a 2-minute run, a 3-minute run, all the way up to 10 minutes, and just kind of their rotational length, and then where it happens in the first half and the second half. And so we've got a little bit better vibe on that. He's been really diligent with his conditioning. He's doing extra conditioning. I thought he made massive energy plays in the second half. They were incredible. You know, the loose ball that he came up with was thrown way up in the air, and he went and just won it in a sea of bodies. You know, the putback that he had that was in transition where Lamont just blistering pace down the floor, and BG had the energy to run and kind of finish to clean up that when nobody else did. He was the only guy still running, and he had a huge impact on this game, and it's fun to see. You know, I think he was really proud of himself, and he should be, because he's been focusing on some specific things, and he executed them well.
Going back to the defensive punches, is there any formula for when you like to do that, how you mix it up, and how many different looks do you guys have there?
Well, it's there's probably an endless, you know, space of ways to try and change the game a little bit. None of them are, you know, listen, basketball people are not geniuses. We're pretty, you know, we're pretty mundane people. But it's both, right? So the game, I think with punches, the game teaches you a lot. So certainly you're kind of culling some data, and you kind of go into the game with a few things like, hey, I want to try this early and just see how they respond. Are they going to respond? You know, if you're going to blitz a ball screen, are they going to respond with a short roll game? Are they going to respond with a gator game? Are they going to respond with a dribble out and try and just attack the big game? Is it going to be a ball handler game against a trap? And so you throw it out just to see what you have, and then you, with that data point, you're like, okay, they're going to attack it this way. Do we feel comfortable with that or not? So you're thinking about that, certainly with punches. Sometimes you're just throwing out a punch because you're like, man, they're scoring every time anyway, so we just need to change the cadence of the game right now. We just need to give them a different look just to see. And then you're wondering how they're going to respond. Are they going to respond by trying to think about it and like attacking it a different way? Or are they just so ears pinned back, downhill right now that they're just going to attack it like crazy anyway, and you'd give a different response. Like if their ears pinned back on full attack, maybe you're not thinking blitz, maybe you're thinking a tandem zone where it's going to feed right, their downhill attack's going to feed right into your strong forefront, right? Or if they're a team that's trying to figure it out, maybe we say, hey, we're going to lean into a tandem zone, for example, instead of a blitz ball screen, because they're going to really meticulously manage the spacing as blitz and tear you up kind of with rotations. And so if they're approaching it that way, if that's the field they have, their response on the other side, then I would like to play zone against a team that's really trying to figure it out in this case, right? Or I could give you 1,000 examples, but that's just kind of so it's, it's just what it is.
Mark, you brought up conditioning before from a team-wide aspect. Obviously, you shortened the rotation a little bit against Duke, high-intensity, 40-minute game, big crowd energy, all that stuff. Just how do you feel like your guys is graded out from a conditioning standpoint, and especially playing mainly 8 guys in that second half?
Yeah, I thought we had massive improvement. I'm really proud of our guys, actually, because it was a place where for the last couple games before, I felt like, man, we're just doing these short rotations. Our guys are gassed. Huge credit to our performance team. So. Randy Towner and Brandon Wells are doing an unbelievable job, and we actually tried something that I've never tried before. It's a segment of practice that is we're lovingly calling it our Jenga segment of practice. I think Andrew Carr might have referred to that in the post game. It's Coach Fox's notion that you just keep coming in waves and coming in waves and coming in waves until you break someone, right? It's kind of our terminology for that. But where we're trying to find a 12 to 26 minute segment in practice where there's very little coaching and there's no stoppage, and we're going to go until we drop. Just letting our guys get used to that. So it's interesting because it doesn't take your player load. You could actually have a really low player load practice. You could be like a 300 or a 350, which for us is a pretty low player load practice, but you still get unbelievable conditioning in a segment. And at least for this game, it really translated for us. It's the first time I've ever tried it. I like it. I think our guys kind of like it, maybe more or not. And but they understand that it's providing benefit. So I think we're making great progress. I give a ton of credit to Randy and Brandon for leading the charge on that.
How much confidence does a win over a team like Duke this early in the season? Even though you have an experienced team, but do they give it a little bit more confidence?
Hopefully our confidence is growing all the time. I think mostly what it gives us is like we're just hungry to grow. You guys hear me? I mean, you're going to be so tired of me already talking about humility and curiosity, right? But I think that's the biggest thing is like just go play again to find out who we are and how we can get better and what we can do better and how we can grow. It's a race, with a team that's constructed the way this team had to be, where every single person is new. It's just a race from our first game on November 4th to hopefully the Final Four. Like, we know we have to get so much better, and there's limited time, and so it's just a race to see how fast we can grow. And so I think that's the biggest thing that this game did for us, that Bucknell did for us, that Wright State did for us, is it just gave us more film and data and experience and to try and figure out how we can become a great team.
Fix themselves at halftime before you even got in there. What was the number one fix they said they had to do?
Well, I think they had a really good sense on the defensive end. I think everyone walked in really frustrated. We try and manage frustration, but really focused on we're not a team that gives up 46 points in the first half. We just don't do that. That's not our standard. That's not the way we play. And so I think the guys had addressed most of those issues by the time we got in the locker room. They don't really listen to me anyway, so it's.
Commits now, I believe you're allowed to comment on the 2025 class. Just talk, those 3 in particular, why were those 3 players that you wanted to have at Kentucky, and just each of them, their skills individually? Well,
first, I'll start with this. I'm telling you, it's a joy to coach here, and it's hopefully it'll continue to be a joy for BBN to watch, because we have great young men in this program. I'm talking about like elite level kids, like really special people. And it's fun. Like, I got to sit next to Ortega and Andrew Carr post game after our last game, and just listen to them answer questions and them talk about what this program is and what it means for them to be here. And it's beautiful, actually. Like, it is. These are kids that are seeing something way bigger than just themselves, right? And that care about the right things. And it just is. It's guys that I want to coach, and it's the way this should be. And it's guys that are in the middle of tremendous careers, are going to have great, massive professional careers, and then go on to do even more important things after that. And that's what we're surrounded with in our locker room right now. So that's the first thing. It's like our filters are really high in terms of bringing in great people. Like, we want great people to do it. Not perfect people. Like, we all screw up and make mistakes and do things like that, but people that are actually really eagerly trying to grow as human beings, right? So that's number one. Number two, I think we've got elite level basketball players. These guys are all top. All three of these guys that have jumped in so far are all top talent, top level guys in the country right now. They've all proven it. They've all done it in different ways. And then the third thing is they fit us. They fit the way we play on the basketball court. Their skill set really, really vibes with how we want to attack this game. And to be specific, Caden Lewis is a floor general supreme. He's a locker room leader. Just watching him roll through the summer and hearing, we're recruiting a lot of guys, and the guys talk about each other. And I don't know if there's a guy that's more universally liked than a Caden Lewis, and how great to have a point guard that's that way, right? That's what you want. He is a play-making point guard, every play he can make. And, his vision is elite. He's wildly skilled. He can get wherever he wants to go on the floor. He does it in a way that's reproducible. He's got like a toughness to him, and kind of a balance, an even-keeled nature about himself that's really special. And he earned it. Like, in the spring, he was maybe in a space where he was walking around trying to, shop himself a little bit. And then by midsummer, he was trying to tell people, stop bothering me, man. I can't talk to every single school in the country. And he earned it. Like, he earned it every single day. And I think he's a beautiful kid. And Jasper Johnson is just danger, right? He just is a dangerous gravity guy. He just is. He just demands that, if you're not going to pay attention to him with more than one body, anywhere he is on the court, probably, 32 by 50, he's gonna hurt you. And he can really, really, really score the ball. And he's got a kindness about him that's really special. And he knows Kentucky, right? One thing that's great about all three of these guys is, they have emotional reaction when they pull on a T-shirt that has Kentucky across the chest, right? They have emotional response. And just Jasper Johnson has a chance to be a really, really special player here in Kentucky for sure. And then Malachi Moreno is, probably the best center in all of high school basketball, and he fits us also. Every time I see him, he's grown a little bit bigger than me, and he likes to rub it in. He puts his arm around me like I'm a little boy, and I can't decide if I hate that or if I love it. It's mixed feelings on that. I had to. He is, you talk about a great human being, what he does with his spare time, how he's reaching out to people in his community, and people with special needs and people that don't have any needs at all. He's a special human being. And he's massive, and he's an elite level passer, and he's got you meet him and you think, oh, this guy's just the nicest, biggest dude I've ever met. But when he gets in the fray, in the mix, there's a little bit of violence and determination that comes out in him that was really fun for me to see. And so we got three terrific players so far in this class we're really excited about.
Coach, how do you at this point decide how many freshman scholarships and knowing the portal is out there and all that to build for next year?
I think it's a balance. There's no science behind it. I do think that freshman class is really important, especially as these three guys are going to be really important, and pieces we may add in the future are really important to this freshman class. I think the portal is really, really important. And I think the most important thing of all is, is the guys in the program that have a chance to come back next year. And so those are three spaces that you can't, you want to pay attention to all three of them because they all are massively important to continuity in a program. So, yeah, I don't know if there's a magical number, but if there is one, hopefully we'll hit it.
Mark, when you talk about the guys you like that they fit what you do, how hard is it for a coach when you see a player who's really talented, maybe he's even interested in coming here, to say, I don't know, he doesn't really fit what we do? How hard is that for a coach to turn a guy like that down?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard, especially when if they're a great young man, right? That's when it gets really hard. But for us, recruiting is about fit, and we always remind ourselves that. And I know that's like a generic cliche thing to say, but it's actually so true, because we want our guys to come here, and I want them to leave here feeling about Kentucky the way that I feel about Kentucky, right? And to do that, an important part of that is getting guys that are come here and not only be able to earn their stripes doing things the way we do them on the court and off the court, but also thrive in that environment. And there's some guys that are going to actually play better somewhere else doing it with someone else, and that's just a reality, right? And sometimes we decide that, and sometimes players decide that, and there's a billion reasons and factors that go into recruiting. But at the end of the day, if we get the guys that fit here the best, then we're going to have the best chance to achieve the standard here at Kentucky.
Mark, the big question, obviously, what's your team going to do if you're not hitting threes, right? And so you guys start hot, 5 for 5, then I think 1 for 10 maybe the rest of the first half, or 0 for 8 for a little while there. And then you make that adjustment in the second half, getting downhill, AC with a couple and1s, Lamont, Brandon with a couple buckets down there. So first of all, how impressed are you that they were able to, get in there and make an impact in the paint? And does that transition maybe have to happen a little bit quicker? Because if you guys go cold in the second half, you guys fell behind. It took a little while for that impact to be felt. Do they have to make that adjustment quicker when shots aren't falling, if that does happen in the second half?
Yeah, we're going to shoot the ball whether we make them or miss them. I mean, it's just an integral part of the way we play. We're going to really focus on the offensive glass, and offensive glass is a great example. Great offensive rebounders is a little bit talent and length and athleticism and skill, and mostly persistence, right? Because if you go to the offensive glass 10 times, you're probably, if you're an okay player, going to come up with 1 offensive rebound. That's it. That means 9 times you went to the offensive glass with your whole heart and were rejected. We don't like rejection. We don't like when people, I know people do hearts. Is there like a thumbs down sign that they do on social media, or is there a rejection sign? Yeah. So we don't like being rejected. We don't like coming up short. We don't like it when we're not successful at something. We kind of want to walk away and do something different, right? And that's what I was talking about post-game, I think our last game, about emotional resilience, is this ability to be like, man, I've gone to the glass 7 times. I'm getting elbowed in the face every single time. And on time number 8, am I going to go to the glass as hard as I can? And am I going to go time number 9 with no fruit for my labor? And I've gone 9 times and come up empty. So why am I going to waste the energy to go to the 10th time? And the 10th time is when you have the breakthrough, right? Don't turn back. That's emotional resilience. That's what champs do. That's how they are. They get hit and hit and hit and again. They come up short, come up short, come up short, come up short, but they refuse to stop coming. It's the whole idea of us coming in waves, right? It's just this relentless persistence. And that's probably, to your question, that's probably more important to me than, our guys deciding to take shots or not take shots, depending if they're making them or not. We're going to be who we are. I'll tell you there's so much that we can do better. I was unbelievably impressed with our thrust. So for us, thrust is from the time the ball gets in our hands, the defense to offensive transition, is the time the ball gets in our hands, whether it's a make or a miss, and then getting it down the court. Our thrust all night long was elite. And there was a ton of offensive frustration. There was defensive frustration. There's all the frustration in that game. But we didn't let any of that frustration in this game carry over to our thrust. It was great whether the other team scored, whether the other team turned it over, whether we got a rebound, whether it was a loose ball, right? And that's that starts with emotional resilience, and that's how we play. And so we'll do some things schematically. We'll make some changes that are really, really important to us, and you can kind of manipulate the game in some ways. But our base level is that, listen, if you come play Kentucky, then you're going to play for 40 minutes, and we're not going away, and we're not backing down, and we're not changing. We're going to keep coming and coming and coming. That doesn't mean that we're going to win every game. It means that you're going to have your hands full, and you're not going to be able to breathe for 40 straight minutes without a second. That's our goal. That's the team we aspire to be, and that's what we're working on.
Is that a time measurement, or is it speed? Is that from the rebound on this shot?
Yeah, so it's just as soon as the ball touched our hands. So the ball could touch our hands, and as soon as we take it out of bounds, it could touch our hands. As soon as we get a rebound, steal, loose ball, whatever.